Hey everyone, it's Karen and I need to talk to you because I just did something. I read Pride and Prejudice. It's about time, I know, and I feel like I'm officially allowed on BookTube now since I've read it. But yes, so let me tell you, first of all, I feel like I've never not known about Pride and Prejudice, but just because being a reader and basically being surrounded by like all this bookish merch when you go into bookstores and stuff, that is all Pride and Prejudice and all Jane Austen and anyway. So I eventually decided to read it quite a few years ago when my friend Christine, who I met teaching, she was the Mandarin teacher and I taught 4th grade, introduced me to basically how much she loved it and really like raved and raved about it. So I went to Barnes & Noble, I got this beautiful Jane Austen complete set of her novels and I started to read it. But then I met Mr. Darcy and I hate Mr. Darcy. He is such, I have some words for him, but basically I did not like him. And so I basically wanted to like throw the book against the wall, which Brene Brown says that's a good sign. But I did not like him and I did not really want to keep reading, but I was going to anyway because it's Pride and Prejudice. But I just kind of like got interested in other books and I hated Mr. Darcy so much that that book just kind of got put to the side, and then I forgot how it started and it just never happened. So then May, I joined BookTube. I became friends with Kelly from Books I'm Not Reading and she loves this book. And also Jane Austen July is actually, at the time of this video coming out, it's starting today. And so I decided that I would do it. This is the year that I was gonna read Jane Austen, and I decided on Pride and Prejudice. If you have no idea what Pride and Prejudice is about, which I'm not sure how that is because even I, without reading it, knew what it was about. But anyway, it is about a family with 5 girls and they get a new neighbor and the mom is obsessed with him and really wants one of her girls to marry him because he is very, very wealthy. The book starts with one of the most famous lines in literature, which is, "It is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife." So the book opens by Mrs. Bennet, the mom of the family, freaking out that there's this new guy in town and she's wanting to tell her husband all about it and he could really care less. And she's like, "Don't you want to hear about it?" And he says, "You want to tell me and I have no objection to hearing it." And so that leads me to the first thing that I really liked about this book was Mr. Bennet. Love him. He is my favorite character. He needs his own book. Like, he was so funny. He had the best lines. His timing was perfect for his jokes and sarcasm, and I loved him. Also, he loved to read too, so that gained like an extra star in my book. So I know that in this book, I'm probably supposed to be interested in Mr. Darcy and his love interest and drama between him and Lizzie Bennet. However, I really could care less. There were no gymnastics. They just walked around in fields all day. I did not care. But let me tell you about the second thing that I really liked about this book, which is just this discussion of marriage and what marriage was like in the past, and just how much it really was like crucial for your survival to be married. Like financially, I don't know how a single woman would have made it back then. And I'm also not sure with the whole financial arrangement of marriage how someone could like really improve themselves through marriage. Like, I mean, obviously you can, but I just thought it was very difficult due to the kind of financial interaction between the two families that happen when someone gets married. The third thing I was super interested in were their hobbies, which obviously this book is not nonfiction. It's meant to be a novel, but I felt like it gave me a glimpse into what life was like in the past. And the primary hobbies that were mentioned in the book were dancing, letter writing, reading, walking, card playing, and there's really just this like there was really this importance of social connection, more so even than now, because I think now you go with your friends and you go do something, as opposed to the social interaction being like, I guess, everything. I also found it interesting, kind of the judgment between like people that were readers and people that like played cards or were walkers. That even back then there still kind of seemed to be like you were sports and into sports, or you were like a nerd into reading. Fourth and finally, we need to talk about Mr. Collins. So he reminded me of the Me Too movement. I'm sure that there's no spoilers for Pride and Prejudice, but this is borderline spoiler. Basically, he tried to get married with one of the characters. He proposed, and she would not have it. But listen, I would not have it either. Here are his 3 reasons for why she should marry him. First, he was like a minister guy, and he needed to set an example for his like parish. Secondly, it would improve his happiness. And third of all, this lady, his patroness, told him to do so. Really? That's romantic. When the character told him, heck no, I'm not about to marry you, he kept telling her that she was wrong, that like she was invalidating her feelings, and just basically not believing her, telling her over and over again that her saying no actually meant yes, which sounds familiar in kind of the whole like rape scene and Me Too movement and all that stuff that women are still talking about now. And then finally, I felt like he kind of tried to like mansplain life to her. Like, just stop. She can think for herself. So overall, I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. I am not a Jane Austen fan, but I'm not a Jane Austen fan. I thought it was good. I'm not obsessed with Jane Austen. I don't know that I would read another Jane Austen soon, although I would eventually like to read all of her novels. So I'm curious, since this is my first Jane Austen, which one you think I should read next, eventually down the road, or which one is your favorite. And I'm also curious about some of the other prompts for the Jane Austen July. Like, what is your favorite for Pride and Prejudice? What's your favorite retelling of it? I'm curious about this one called Pride, which I think is like a Black version of it. And I'm also curious about Curtis Sittenfeld's version of it, which I think is called Eligible. And I want to read that just because I met her, but I'm curious if you guys have read it and what you've thought. Leave all your comments below. I'm interested in anything you have to say about Jane Austen or life in general. I'm curious what you're reading right now, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.